here. I'm an international pleasure and intimacy coach. Thank you so much for joining this webinar today on hot tips on how to pleasure a woman. I feel that this topic is really important, to say the least. And a little bit about myself. I am an international speaker, and a digital course creator in the space of conscious sexuality. I am traveling the world and holding retreats, events, creating courses on how to optimize love life, pleasure, create mind-blowing experiences. I help singles to start dating with confidence by unleashing their true desires and creating more love, more connection, and more intimacy in their life. I'm very passionate about what I do because once upon a time I needed my own help. So saying that, I have accumulated so many skills, so many tools that now I'm working with people from all over the world, men and women. I'm holding retreats, events, and I create courses for men and women. And recently, lots of men in my circle have been very curious about lovemaking and how to pleasure a woman and what does it take to pleasure a woman. And actually, working with my private clients, I have seen a lot of fear of intimacy and how to hold yourself. And I thought to myself, hey, listen, I've got so many tools in my bag that I can absolutely share them with you guys. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey in this webinar today. I would love to see where you guys from. So just like, let's connect a little bit. I'm all about the connection. And if you have got any questions at any point of the presentation, there will be a presentation. I will answer those questions at the end. Okay. But before we begin, I actually would love to set the intentions for today's webinar, for it to be informative, for it to be interesting, interactive, and I am intended to answer your questions. Also, you can connect with me online. I will be sharing a link if you want to book a call with me, so that, you know, if you have got like something private you would like to discuss, and it's like a complimentary call also. Are you guys ready? So if you're ready, then let's begin. By the way, you can type your comments, your questions into the chat box below. You will probably see the chat there, and you can write your comments, you can write your questions, anything that comes to your mind. But I know that usually working with men are more reserved in their comments and questions, and yeah, so I just want to really set the tone here, that there is no judgment, there is no shame, there is no none of that. You know, I'm here to share with you what hurdles my clients come across to, and I would love for you to actually take away something from this, learn from this, and implement in your life, right? And if you would at any point think that you would like to know more or go deeper into any subject, then please let me know, schedule a call, and I'll be very happy to discuss that with you. But hey, now let's begin. Okay, so I look forward to this presentation. Thank you. Okay, amazing, amazing. I'm very much looking forward to interact with you too. And thank you so much for kickstarting the chat going. Awesome. So, hey, I will share my screen with the presentation that I have created. And are you ready to hear some tips, hot tips on how to pleasure a woman? Well, I will start right now. So, here it is. Hot tips on how to pleasure a woman, a complete guide to how to become an incredible lover. Because, you know, I think and I feel that life is too short to spend it on mediocre lovemaking experiences. It's just not worth it. There is so much pleasure out there, and there is so much pleasure available to all of us. However, we, like majority of people, are struggling to tap into that. You know, sex became a very mediocre kind of act oriented experience where people actually forget that there is so much pleasure out there. It's so available to all of us. And in fact, I will tell you that orgasms, they heal, they're good for your mindset, they're good for your mental health, they're good for your body. They have got, they strengthen in your immune system, you know, they give you a great mood. Like you name it, orgasm is the way forward, right? And the better and like more open you are to give and receive orgasms, like, hey, your life is different once your sex life is like great. All right. Okay, so the first tip is a desire. How connected are you with your desire? How connected are you with your desire? And this is one of the main aspects of sexuality that so many people are so disconnected with, right? This we always want something, desire something that keeps us awake at night, and something that doesn't allow us to go and well, not even allow us to go to sleep at night, but actually it's something that wakes us up in the morning, you know. And very often desires, they don't make sense, they just there, and we just kind of, you know, are chosen by our desire. So what happens is, I don't know if you can relate, but I'm pretty sure you can. The example of desire chooses you is where when you have a friend and you fancy a lover of your friend or a girlfriend of your friend, you know, and it doesn't make sense, and you know that you shouldn't be liking her, but nevertheless it's like, oh my god, I can't help myself, but I like her, I feel attracted to her, you know. Logically it's like, okay, this situation is a no-go, but then essentially you have no choice, your desire have chosen you. So very often you do not have choice with your desire, but what you have choice is to act on it or not, right? But so often we have such disturbed relationships with our desires that absolutely kind of take away from all the experiences. Then you know, you have a desire, like one of my clients that I worked with a couple of years ago, his name is, let's say, John, right? um, he had a massive desire to fall in love and to have a family. That was everything that he wanted, but he could not even speak to a woman. So he was beating himself up all the time for even wanting that. Okay, so his relationship with his desire was completely like fight. it was like a war. On one hand, he wants what he wants. On the other hand, he just like completely understands that he cannot have it. So he was single for 8 years and was completely unable to talk to a woman. So, and why was he not able to talk to women? Because the beliefs about sex and pleasure he had, because our conditioning has the major impact on how we view sex and intimacy and relationships, right? So what I say here, that first you create your beliefs and then your beliefs create you. In John's example, he was told from very young age that he has to respect women, that he learned to believe that sex is only a chore for women, right? So they do sex, they have sex out of obligation. So imagine this, he wants to create a beautiful family, he wants to make love to a woman, but his belief system says that if he has sex with her, it's like disrespecting her, right? So can you imagine what massive misalignment of the desire and belief system that it has? So it's like each action that he takes towards approaching a woman and even start a conversation, even creating is like, hey, how are you, is laced with shame and guilt, because all of his consciousness completely says that, hey, what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is disrespectful. I had a lover who had a belief that, oral sex is disrespectful to women. And like, imagine that, it's like having the very intimate experience making love, and then you believe that, part of your sexuality is shamed with shame and guilt, right? And it's like every time when your lover is kissing you, you feel guilt on some level. So that will create a massive misalignment in like your desires and what is actually in your belief system. So it will definitely take away from all the experiences that are, from all the pleasure that is available out there. I work with men who are losing their erection because they have so many belief system. They have got resentments towards, their lovers, and they just cannot and they really believe into something that ultimately is not true, but subconsciously it's a very real experience that actually stops man from creating this mind-blowing pleasure and sexual experiences with their lovers. So this is the second tip here. It's like, adjust your belief system about sex and pleasure, because it's really important and it's actually fundamental work. Because so many, believe that sex, it's only like when two bodies come together, and like it's like very much penis into vagina kind of situation, and that's sex. But actually sex starts when you just start like flirting with each other, when you feel that sparks inside of you, when you feel like, oh wow, I'm curious about this woman, I would really love to get to know her, I'm very like, this is already sex, right? It's like, it doesn't have to be physical, it doesn't have to be naked right away. All it is, it's like, it's that spark of desire, that is already sex, right? And you may have a different outlook on that, but everything that leads to this is everything that leads to actual act of two bodies merging, that is also sex. So I just want for you to be clear on that. And everything that is adjusted to that. I mean, all the conversations, all the like previous experiences, your belief system, that is part of your experience also. And in my view, it is so important to clear all of the baggage that comes along uh, with you in your consciousness, you know, that may take away in any way from your experience, and actually clear that to create a fresh, expansive, mind-blowing, juicy and passionate lovemaking. Because like I said, life is too short to spend it on mediocre experiences. I hope this makes sense so far. If you have got any questions, please type them in the chat box below, okay? So then we have our role models of love and intimacy, and usually those role models are our parents. And in fact, they will play a vital role in you creating your belief system about sex and intimacy. How was your experience of communication about love and intimacy when you was growing up? What was the examples of relationships for you when you were growing up? Was your parents arguing a lot, or were they, oops, that's the next one, or were they really you know, loving each other? What example have they set for you to create the relationships? Were they respecting each other, or were they like constantly in a battle with one another? Did you, like, I work with this person, with this man, that every single time he feels that he has to fight to put his point across, whether that's you know, the lover or friend or somebody at work, you know, and it's a constant battle. There is like always has to prove himself, but it's like, again, because there is a belief system that says that he has to fight all the time, so he's being his consciousness always in a fight mode. It's no relaxing. So this is a massive thing to address. It's like, what have you learned from your parents? And like throughout your life, there are opportunities, of course, to unlearn everything we learn, because most of the time what we learn is our conditioning. It's what it should be, what it needs to be, versus to what you want it to be, what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure. So also here it's very important to think about what conversations about sex and sexuality did you have? What did you learn about sex and sexuality when you were younger, when you were a child? Like, when personally me, when I asked my parents where do I come from, they told me that I come from a cabbage, that I was found in a cabbage. So you imagine that sex, sexuality has been like a very taboo subject. It's not something that you would talk about. It's not something that you know, share with people. It's something that was done like with the lights off under the duvet, and it's like nobody knows where the kids come from, you know, like over the sudden. But that's the truth. And sexuality have been a very shameful subject, and still up until now my mother is very conservative about sex and sexuality. So very interesting was to share with her when I started working in the space of sexuality and actually teaching people how to create a conscious experiences. Right. So next one is a masculine energy. So about the energy, We all have both masculine and feminine energy. And actually stepping into your divine masculine energy um, is super sexy, right? But it's like, again, there is no that one way that, oh, you're masculine and she's feminine. It's like a dance where you actually switch together. Like maybe one day she will just like push you to the bed and like take you away, you know what I mean? So it's like in that case she would be in her masculine, but it's like it is so important to have this acknowledgement of your feminine and masculine energy, where you can actually explore that you're not stuck. It's like, yeah, I'm a man, you know, and I got to do this, because very often it is confused with ego. It's like masculine energy, and it's so sweet, it's so delightful, it's so incredible when you have that in alignment, where, you know, when she comes at you with her feminine storm of emotions, that you are like a deep rooted tree and you can handle her, you can bend but you don't break. And this is super sexy, because I can tell you that feminine energy, it really is like a storm. It's like a goddess Kali, it's like a nature. She destroys and she creates. And saying that, you have that energy too, right? It is available to you also. And in fact, your desire is a feminine energy. It doesn't have explanation, it doesn't have logic. It is just there for you to experience it. It's not seen, it's not heard, it is just there, but you can definitely feel it all the time. And I will tell you, the more aligned you are with your feminine energy, the more connected you are with your feminine energy and your emotional state, your emotional body, the more you can actually hold space and listen and understand what is she going through, what is your lover going through. You can hold space for her emotions to come out. And once you learn to do that, once you know how to, hey, listen, you know, she's going through something and I can hold space for her, and your masculine energy doesn't try to fix that, because very often masculine energy is like, doesn't understand what this feminine energy wants. It's like, oh my god, this is just like an emotional mess, this is too overwhelming, it doesn't make sense to me, where is the structure, where is like uh, you know, I need to go, you know, it's like I need to fix it. And very often I see my clients, when they don't know how to fix it, they get overwhelmed. But guys, I will tell you right now that there is fix anything unless you asked, right? Very often feminine just wants you to listen and be present. Feminine wants attention, and masculine wants structure. So I would really, really, really can talk about this topic actually for quite a lot, about masculine and feminine energy. And there are also toxic traits too, you know, that actually the control, the anger, and for feminine it's being a victim and neediness and manipulation. We all have that, both sides, you know, we all have healthy and unhealthy sides of masculine and feminine energies within us, right? So it's being actually aligned and aware of what is happening within you. That is really important. I hope this makes sense so far. And like I said, if you have got any questions, I'm going to pick them up after the presentation is over, right? So the next tip is boundaries. Boundaries. What are boundaries? What are boundaries? So my clients, now they know, since working with me, they know their boundaries. before working with me, what are boundaries? And actually, John was saying to me, it's like, well, boundaries is saying no more often. And it is right to the extent, apart from you just not saying no to the things that you want, you say no to things that you don't want, and actually not being apologetic about it. Like um, when I was growing up, uh, my mother used to walk in into my bathroom whenever I was having a bath. Um, all the time. We didn't have a lock on the door. So every time my privacy have been compromised, right? And I learned and I grew up thinking that and learned that, well, actually people just step in my space whenever they please. And it was not like that. Like I didn't like it. It didn't make me feel good. I have a client that I worked with. His boundaries were so weak that he thought that he has to like overstep himself to please his woman, that in fact that he had beliefs that he has no choice because he has to overachieve, that he had to do everything and he had no help, like he has to do everything himself, otherwise if he asks for help he is weak, right? And that was his belief system. So his boundaries with himself, first of all, have been non-existent. Like, I mean, uh, working full-time work, um, being in a relationship, renovating the house, looking after the parents. You know, there was no zero time to himself, zero. Plus, he would do so much that his back like would nearly break. So he would lay on the floor absolutely in agony because he just had the beliefs that he has to do everything himself and he has to overachieve, and he had zero boundaries with himself for his own well-being as well as with his lover. I see so many men trying to please their lovers that they actually overstep their own boundaries. You know, that it's like, yes honey, like, oh baby, let's go for a dinner. Sure, where do you want to go? Let's do this. It's like I'm in the middle of, like, you know, my work or this project or whatever that is, but yeah, whatever you need, you know. And nothing is wrong with uh, pleasing your woman in that way. However, when that comes at the cost of your own happiness and your own balance, that becomes a problem. Because the more you're gonna allow people or do it yourself, in fact, overstep your own boundaries or allow people to overstep your boundaries, the more resentment you're gonna create towards them sooner or later, because you know that there is only so much patience we have within us, but then it's like what usually happens is a resentment. So we create the stories and then we just like struggle to deal with people. There is somebody that I worked with, um, so every time his partner would come to ask him something, he would say yes, but then he would not keep his promise because he was like internally would have a fight with himself that why he should do it, but he would say yes all the time. And in fact, you know, I was speaking at the festival last year, Sun and Moon Festival, and I was running also a boundaries and communications workshop there. So I had about 20 people, and about 18 people said that the hardest part for them is to say no, because we're just conditioned to say yes to things. And then what happens when we say yes and have no intention of carrying that out, we actually lose trust of that person, but also we lose trust, or like we take away, we chip away of trust towards ourselves, right? And this is what happens. And I can tell you that in love making, in sex and sexuality, trust is the main thing that has to be a foundation to your sexual experience. Because I can tell you, if you are saying yes and you are not carrying that out, your lover gonna lose trust to you. And why is trust so important? Because for a woman, for her orgasm to come and play with you, her orgasm is the most vulnerable thing, right? So if she cannot trust you in real life, in everyday life, with everything that you say, that the, the chances that she gonna trust you with her orgasm are really slim, right? I had a lover that he would tell me all the time, yes, 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 yes. He would say yes to everything, but he would hardly ever deliver. I could not orgasm with him, like at all. In fact, I could not even fantasize about, like my mind wouldn't expand that far to even create the possibility for orgasm, right? And that has been like a true problem for me. I was like, what is going on here? And then I started looking at this, like what actually have led to that. And I'm like, well, that's obvious. Everything he says is a yes, and everything he does is a no. So how am I supposed to like allow myself to, you know, be very vulnerable if I cannot trust you? Simple as that. And being with another lover, every time he said yes, it was a solid yes. And I didn't like, the thing is, for us women, our vigilance goes down when we know that we can trust you. When we know that it's like, if he says yes, I don't have to question it, you know, it's solid. So when you say yes but you really mean no, it kind of keeps us guessing. It's like, does he mean yes, does he mean no? And I mean, women do that too, of course, but for sexuality, you know, it's like, for us women, it's so important to be able to trust what you say, and knowing that you saying yes, it means yes. I don't have to question it. So I can just let go and allow my orgasm to come and just shower both of us, right? So I hope that makes sense. So if you're gonna take away anything from this webinar, I really hope that this would be that, right? Okay, communication. Hey, hey, hey. So everything that we have discussed so far and everything that we are going to discuss is based on communication, because there are, of course, ways to convey your ideas, your propositions, your desires to one another, right? And all of that is through communication. When we are, like I've been mentioning one of my clients earlier, that he feels that he has to fight all the time to put his point across. But I will tell you, it doesn't have to be that way. When you allow yourself to be content and confident in your desires, in your boundaries, in who you are and what are you willing and looking for and desiring to create, you know, the communication can become super easy and joyful. And when you come into conversation with empty mind and only great intentions of create solutions, resolutions, and possibilities, your life will become different. And I promise you that. You know, when you're going to learn how to create possibilities for yourself from the place of desire, not fear and judgment, which is like a massive thing. When you learn how to be open and truthful about the way you feel at the time, and like leave the ego part of like all feelings of for girls kind of thing, you know, because we are very often, like men, very often conditioned to that. Then your life, especially your sex life, will change. Because trust me, language and communication was given to us for sure for a reason, because it is part of the experience. It's part of life. In fact, it's the biggest part of life is our communication. And how I have learned once that you are your word. You are your word. Like so when you say something, you have to honor that. And it's, yeah, you know, it goes without saying. Funny, that's communication. Yeah. Right. Next tip is the anatomy of woman's pleasure. And oh my god, this is one of the most exciting topics I would imagine, exploring woman's body, and actually knowing that woman's body operates and works in a completely different way to a man's body, right? The pleasure center for man is his penis, right? And it's like when the man is aroused, you can like right away see that, and that's like the first place where they go. But for women, it's completely different. You know, for a woman, whole of her body is erogenous, and all of her body needs to be warmed up before you go to, you know, to the Holy Land, right? Um, so also there, of course, there are ways and techniques, and I'm not actually so big on techniques, because I will tell you now why. Because I'm all about feeling your way through, and that's a very feminine way, right? It's a very feminine way. But there are some certain things to know about a woman's body, and actually communicate with her beforehand. What does she love? What does she completely doesn't love? You know, and there is of course the ways to, I actually, you know what, I have this desire, and I have this course coming up, and my plan is to invite like 10 women to share on video how they love oral sex. So this is my desire, because I'm like, listen, I just own this to the world. I just have to share this with men, right? It's like, so this is my desire to actually on the anatomy of women's pleasure in this course, to create like a video with minimum 10 women, you know, like really sharing what do they love in sex, how they love oral sex, how they love their bodies to be treated. Because like, I'm a one woman and I can tell you these things, you know, another woman, she may like something differently. Overall experience, I will tell you right now, when you leave all the baggage behind, when you set the boundaries, when your vigilance is down, when you say yes and really mean yes, and when you say no and really mean no, and all of this experience comes to actually your naked bodies intertwining in pleasure together, you, like, for you, what is very important to follow what feels right to you, what feels good to you, you know, and like keep on checking in if this is something, you know, that like most of the time I imagine you would see or hear, unless you have a very shy partner or lover, you know. And but then again, having that communication beforehand is really important, and also making sure that it's not a pushy communication, making sure that it's actually very gentle and curious communication. That's very important. I'm just going to switch an aircon. It's a little hot. Oops. It's a bit hot here. Right. So I hope this does make sense so far. So next is endurance and performance. And like I've been saying earlier, there are a lot of men that I work with have got real challenges with their endurance and performance. And it becomes a real challenge when married couple have arguments about that, when married couples try to make babies, when when couples actually separating because of this, and I will tell you right now that endurance and performance, it's a problem not of your physical body, it's a problem of your emotional body. So everything that we have worked with before, I had a client, right? And his relationship with his wife have been like really wild. They go to like all kinds of play parties and like they explore sexuality. She's super open and horny, and he's like super horny, but the truth is that he could last about a minute, and it was a problem for him, and it was a problem. So when we started working on his endurance and his performance, when we addressed all of the things that we have discussed earlier, like the beliefs about sex, the boundaries, the communication, when we addressed all of that, actually all of his problems been gone. Like after first session, he was like, oh my God, Eugina, this is incredible. So like from going from 1 minute to 15 minutes, I think this is a pretty good result, right? And so I can tell you that if any of you are actually having an experiencing challenges right now with endurance and performance, that the solution to it is not in your body, it's in addressing what's going on here. Okay, because there what I see very often that men feel that they have to perform. Men feel that like I have to perform, I have to be, and again it's driven by ego. When you drop that part away and you actually allow yourself to drop into your body and feel, the performance bit disappears. It just like fades away. There is no pressure, because once you feel that there's need to perform, there is a pressure, right? So once you remove that need to perform, the pressure disappears. I hope that is helpful to you. Hey, just let me know that is helpful. I'm gonna pick up the messages after. So right, so those are the tips for now. And like I said, I will be sharing more on the private call on how to become an incredible lover breakthrough session. So you can actually book the session with me, which is absolutely free, on this link. I will post the link in the comment box. I really hope that this has been helpful to you, because going through life and witnessing so many men are refusing their desires, refusing their passions, refusing their pleasure even, that really breaks my heart. And knowing that there's such a like maybe simple but not so easy solutions, but all you have to do is to put attention on yourself. And this is what it essentially is, you guys by default want to pleasure a woman, and I really admire that. But so many, I witness so many men are so driven to pleasure women that they forget about themselves, when essentially, if there is no contentment and pleasure within you, that that the fact is like you're going to be pleasuring a woman at the cost of your own happiness and pleasure, somewhat it doesn't make sense to me, right? So it's like when your cup is full, when you full of love, when you full of pleasure, and you share it with your woman from the overflow, this creates an incredible experience for both of you, right? When you can feel, when you feel your body, when you're tuned with your emotions, when you hold space for her, this is where your incredible uh, masculine energy comes out. This is where you can absolutely um, create all of those mind-blowing experiences together. And I can tell you right now that this is absolutely worth doing, because guys, like, honestly, your pleasure matters as much as her pleasure. And when you have pleasure and you create the space for her pleasure to come out, this is what's important, right? And tell me, do you have any questions? I've just posted a link um, to book a call with me, and it's absolutely free. And listen, everyone is unique, and everyone's needs and situations are absolutely unique. So I would absolutely love to get to know you better. And there could be potentially more than one challenge, but let's start with one and just see where would it take you, because like getting clarity on where you are and what stops you from creating the like love life you desire, the pleasure life that you desire. Can you imagine removing those obstacles? What could happen? um, so guys, please tell me if you have got any questions. I would absolutely love to hear from you. And actually let me know, has this webinar so far been helpful to you? Mm. Hi, I can see hi's there. I recognize some of the names. Some of you have messaged me privately. Hey, nice to see you here. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. So tell me, does this make sense? I specifically didn't want to do a webinar on techniques of the lovemaking, because I feel that this, like, every one of you is an incredible lover. Like every single one of you is an incredible lover. But sometimes that there are some things that are actually getting in the way of your pleasure and desire and ability to express that, gets in the way. And all of those things are very much easy to attune, very easy to attune. So guys, I can see that there is no questions. So if you would love to know more how you can create an mind-blowing experiences for yourself and your lovers, I really would love to invite you to book the call with me. It's absolutely free. And let's see what we can do to create a long-lasting positive change in your life. So I can see, very helpful. Oh, this is amazing. And if you can write me a little, I'm gonna send you actually an email after this, and I'm just gonna ask you to give me a little feedback on this webinar, and to share with me what you found helpful and what was not helpful at all. And that would absolutely help me to improve and make those webinars better, more informative, and more in tune with what you guys want and need, right? And yeah, also, if you have got any suggestions on what would be helpful to you and what I can create the next webinar on, I would really appreciate it too, because I would love to keep my content very relevant, right? Okay, you're so welcome, so welcome. I'm very happy to see you here, to connect with you, even like across the world. I'm here in Bali right now. So thank you guys for showing up. Thanks for being here. And if you have got any questions, like I said, you can book a call with me and I will answer those questions privately. Or I will send you an email and maybe we can connect that way. All right, lots of love from me right now. Take care, and I'm sending you lots of pleasure. Bye for now.